And third is spices now. So I highly recommend getting good quality spices as well, and also trying to find, these are really beautiful little glass containers. They're just nice because you can see exactly what you have on hand. So it's really trying to be as organized as possible with food, so you can really get creative and see all of your beautiful products that you have, so you can feel really inspired to make something beautiful and nourishing for yourself. So the more you can prep and do that in advance, the better your cooking will be, and the more you'll enjoy cooking as well. So these are cloves. I was trying to think, I make I guess things like apple crumble, like poached apple and pear and stuff like that with these. So they're just nice to have. Cloves are really beautiful, warming flavour. Sometimes you can use them in some Indian dishes as well. Juniper berries, I use them for sauerkraut. My German background uses sauerkraut a lot, so this is a nice way to cook and get that flavour into sauerkraut actually. I don't really use those or those. Garlic, I do love fresh garlic. I prefer that obviously, but it's nice to have some crushed garlic, or these little garlic flakes, I guess you call them, and usually I have garlic powder as well. So just in case I need some, and some ingredients, some recipes call for a powdered version of that as well. So I do suggest that. The humidity can really dry this out, so I've put a little anti-humidity thing in there to try and help it. I don't really know what else to do to try and keep it fresher. Cinnamon is really important in my house. I highly recommend you get a lot of cinnamon for yourself. I put it in my porridge every time I have it. I use it in a lot of like baking and stuff like that as well. You even use it in curries and things. So that's a really important one. And cinnamon is so powerful in the body. It helps immunity so much. It really helps like restore our internal fire. It's a really beautiful herb to use. Onion powder, it's sort of like, I don't really use that very much, and it gets very gluggy as well. So that's pretty much done for now. I think it's just looking pretty in the jar. But it's like with the garlic, sometimes it's nice to have a powdered version of it if you feel like you need that in the recipe. Coriander powder is really beautiful. I use it in a lot of curries and things like that. So there's so many different types of curries, obviously from all different countries. This is a really beautiful thing to have on hand. Sometimes you can use it in some spice mixes that you might make for certain veggies and things as well. Garam masala, it's quite an Indian sort of flavour. I don't really use it for much else, I don't think. But all these Indian curries and things like that, you really need to have these spices. Otherwise, you can't really substitute for it. You do need to have the whole, I guess, spectrum of flavours. So it's really important if you do like those sorts of foods to get the right spices for them. Chili is, I do love using fresh chili, and this one is really hot. I don't know how it got so hot, but I just use a really small amount of it. But it is nice to just change up the flavour. I don't usually have very hot spicy food because it can really irritate the gut, but just being gentle with it is a really nice way to strengthen flavours in your food. Salt, I use a few different types of salt, all like sea flake salts. This one's a really beautiful pink one, so pink Himalayan, just for some extra food. That being said, just always check, because salts have different, I guess, potencies, so test it before you sort of use it in recipes especially. That being said, I use a really nice organic whole peppercorn as well in a grinder. So salt and pepper are really important to have. They do, don't be afraid of using salt. Salt's really important in the body. It gets a bad name because people overdo it and they use really poor quality salt, which can actually like calcify our arteries and things like that. So it's always better to get a good quality evaporated salt and seed flakes, nice seed flakes. These are bay leaves. Bay leaves are really important. They can really make or break a meal, especially like curries and soups. So don't be afraid of using these. They're dry as well. They're really beautiful, so they'll hold forever. Please don't blitz them though. I've seen people like blitz meals or soups and things like that and keep them in there and be blitzing them. So you need to take these out once the curry or soup's been cooked, and then you can blitz it, because it's not going to taste very nice. You'll have like little bits of leaf everywhere. Sweet paprika is a really important one in my house too, and then there's smoked paprika. Sweet paprika just adds such a beautiful colour and flavour to things. It's just so rich, and when it gets mixed with oil, it gives you that really beautiful rich colour, so it's really nice to use. Smoked paprika is literally smoked. Not everyone likes smoky flavours, and I understand that, but this can really enhance a meal as well. These are really beautiful Mexican flavours too, so it's really nice to have these. Cardamom is such an aromatic herb, it's really beautiful. I don't use it that much, but when I do use it, I'm grateful I have it, so it is nice to have it on hand. It's quite often in curries and things like that, so that's probably the main thing I use it for. Cumin is a really important one actually, so things like hummus, I use it a lot. This sprinkled on whole, like big pieces of sweet potato with coconut oil is so good. Again, you can use this in a Mexican spice with the paprikas. Just trying to think. There's actually a lot you use cumin for, so, and in all the curries of course as well, that's quite a staple. Turmeric is really important, as I'm sure you know. It's a really beautiful inflammatory herb. It just gives the most amazing colour to curries. I use it for scrambled tofu. You can make any sort of dressing or sauce a lot more exciting by adding turmeric as well, so I highly recommend this one, and again in lots of curries. And then we have a curry powder. So this is a finished one. Sometimes recipes call for a finished curry powder just because they have like a whole bunch of spices already in them, but usually I add just a little bit of this and add all my own spices as well. It is nice to have this on hand. Get a really good quality one though, because some of them can have a lot of gunky things in it, and always check the ingredients on everything you get. This is a mustard powder, which is literally mustard ground down. So this is really nice to use as well for just basically making any sort of spice mixes or enhancing sauces and things like that. And these two are pretty important too. So these are cinnamon quills. So I use these a lot when I'm poaching things like apples or pears and fruits like that. Or you stick the whole thing in as well if you're making curries, for instance, so that's really yummy. And mustard seeds are a pretty important one too. So making curries, again, can really enhance the dish so much. So I do suggest these mustard seeds. Just be careful when you're cooking them, because they will start popping if the pan is too hot, so you just want to be careful with them at the beginning. The other maybe two things I have are things like lime leaves and kaffir lime leaves and curry leaves, which I actually keep in the freezers. So sometimes you can already buy them dry though, so just see. But essentially they're all my main spices, and I do highly recommend having them all on hand, because again, you can make so many things out of these beautiful ingredients, and it's all these dry spices have got such high things like antioxidants and other nutrients, which are really important for immunity and gut health. So I highly recommend working with these dry herbs, and then obviously incorporating fresh herbs as well.